The book that I'll be reading today is Do Re Mi, If You Can Read Music, Thank Guido de Arezzo by Susan L. Roth. The reason I chose this book for my future classroom is because it's the start of music history. It's the start of actually writing music down instead of learning it orally. And learning that and teaching that to students is the most important thing for an early musician, to see where music comes from. The other reason is it shows how much music has changed over the years. This didn't happen very long ago, and seeing how far music has progressed during this time is absolutely amazing. So let's just jump right into it. 1,000 years ago, if you heard a song and wanted to hear it again, you'd have to remember it by heart. If you forgot the song, it could be lost forever. 1,000 years ago, no one could write down music. Not even a single note. There were no notes. There were no staves, no clefs, no sharps, no flats. There was no written music at all. 1,000 years ago, in a small city in Tuscany, Guido of Arezzo learned to sing by rote, like all the children in the choir. The choir master sang a song, and the children repeated the song they heard. When someone needed a reminder, the choir master had to sing the song all over again. There was no way to read the sounds of a song like words in a book, because only the words of a song could be written. Words alone were not enough to keep a song alive forever. The thought of writing down the sounds of a song slipped into Guido's head when he was still young. Others had tried to do this before, but no one had ever found a way. The thought stayed with Guido as he grew into a man. Sometimes Guido tried to explain how easy it would be to learn to sing if only music could be read instead of memorized. "What's wrong with memorizing?" asked Guido's teacher. "This is the way my father taught me to sing." "Maybe it's not the only way," said Guido. "Nonsense," said Guido's teacher. "All day long I teach children to memorize their songs. What would I do all day if children learned to sing without me? Everything would change." The musicians of Arezzo were not ready for change, but Guido was ready. He said goodbye to his friends and went to live with the Benedictine monks in Pomposa. Again, Guido tried to explain how easy it would be if only music could be read like words in a book. "We already know how to sing," said the monks in Pomposa. "We love our music the way it is." Brother Michael stood right next to Guido. He was the only monk who was really listening. "So I could make up a song and write it down," he said. "And you could read it and sing it before you heard it? It would be like a book. Anyone could sing if the music could be written. Think of that." "Exactly," said Guido. "The choir masters wouldn't have anything to do anymore," said Brother Michael. "They'll have different things to do," said Guido. Guido began to write on parchments with his quill and ink even before his thoughts were clear. Sometimes he tried to explain what he had written to Brother Michael. Brother Michael praised Guido when what he saw was clear. He complained to Guido when what he saw was not. Guido collected more letters and numbers and symbols than he knew how to use. His collections filled his room. His collections filled his years. But how could he put them together? What should be included? What should be left out? Guido thought about writing down the sounds of songs during his lunches and vespers, his late nights, his walks in the woods. He thought during homilies and lessons. He thought while planting in the garden, comforting the sick, mending the monks' robes, even when he was busy teaching children to sing. And even when he himself was singing, Guido was always thinking about a written language for music. Bit by bit, Guido began to build his musical system. But how could he put all the pieces together in a way that someone else would ever be able to understand? Guido shut his eyes and held his head. "You almost have it now, brother," said Brother Michael. "No, I don't," said Guido. He pounded his hands on the table and put his head down and started to cry. "I just can't do it," he said. Guido, said Brother Michael, every day you get a little closer to the answer. You can't give up now. And then Guido had his epiphany. Guido organized his thoughts onto fresh parchments. Brother Michael was the first to see. Thank you for having faith in me, said Guido. I only listened while you worked, said Brother Michael. Soon everyone else will listen too. But the other monks in Pomposa were still not ready to listen. We like the way we sing our songs, said the other monks. If you want to write, write a story. If you want to read, read a book. If you want to sing, sing the way you were taught. Leave us alone, Guido. Maybe it's time for you to go home. And so Guido decided to go back to his first home, back to Arezzo. I'll write you letters, said Brother Michael. I'll send you songs, said Guido. Guido sang his way back to Arezzo. Guido's back, said his old friends. Everyone had missed him. Welcome home, Guido, said Teodaldo, the new bishop. Teodaldo asked Guido to become the master of the children's choir. I'll do it, said Guido, and I'll teach the children to read music. They will prove to everyone that it is possible. Say that again, said Teodaldo. What in the world are you talking about? Look, said Guido. He held out his hand. Pretend my fingers are lines. Don't look at my thumb. What do you see in between my fingers? Nothing but empty spaces, said Teodaldo. Right, said Guido. There are lines and spaces. Pitches go in order, from low to high. Each pitch has its place, either on a line or in a space. These are the pieces of the puzzle. Go on, said Teodaldo. Everyone was listening now. Go on, said the others. They had begun to understand at last. Guido took a parchment out of his bag. Here's a song you cannot know, he said, because I composed it. I've written it down. No one has ever seen it or heard it, except from the words which came from an old poem. Remember that each line and each space has its own unique pitch. All right, let me hear all of you sing it together. Teodaldo and the others read Guido's music. They sang his song. Bravo, said Guido. Bravo, Guido, they said. Guido did teach the children in the choir to read music. Soon all the world was listening. When the Pope learned how to read music, he invited Guido to move to Rome. Guido was pleased to visit, but even the Pope couldn't persuade him to move away from his home again. I am Guido of Arezzo, said Guido de Arezzo. And 1,000 years later, that is how he is still known. Guido's systems of lines and spaces developed onto the same system for musical notation that we use today. Guido chose the do, originally ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la syllables, from parts of a poem that he set to music 1,000 years ago. It is because of Guido de Arezzo that we can hear Gregorian chant, the music of Bach, Beethoven, the blues, and all the other music ever written. A website that I thought would be very helpful after reading this book was Sporkle.com. It was an online quizzing source, and it had pre-made quizzes about solfege. So this could help them to continue their learning of solfege and the order and different ways to remember them. This also brings the book to life. It shows that something that was created thousands of years ago is still used today. This is also something that the students could do at home instead of having to do it in the classroom. A couple standards that this book or this lesson could pass is 5PR, which states read, write, and perform using pentatonic, which is la, sol, fa, mi, re, do, melodies on treble staff in G do, F do, and C do using a system, and the system would be solfege. It also could pass 4CE, which is discuss the lives and times of composers from various historical periods. This is starting at the very beginning. This is starting from where music was written down. It also would cover 7 CE, describe the roles of musicians in various musical settings. This is starting from the very beginning. This is starting from the first music roll, the first new music roll in centuries. This is the writing of music. And finally, 6 CE, which is describe roles and skills musicians assume in various cultures and settings. This is starting from the beginning again. This foundation of having the knowledge of the beginning of written music will show them how cultures and different settings have influenced it, but they would never be able to understand that if they didn't know the beginning. Thank you for listening.